Amsterdam, a city full of people, full of life, and for the past weeks, full of technology. Not only did we have the efficiency beurs and the Internet in Business show, but this week the high-tech forum is in Amsterdam. It's organized by Esther Dyson, fairly well known because of her newsletter Release 1.0 and many conferences and activities in the field of information technology. Her latest book is Release 2.0, which will come out in the shops in maybe a few months here. It's out in the States this month. And we're going to talk with Esther Dyson about the state of the IT industry. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Esther Dyson, tell me why Release 1.0 and Release 2.0? Where does this come from?
Well, Release 1.0 is the name of my newsletter, and that came actually because it was originally called the Rosen Electronics Letter, which is R-E-L, and I bought it from Ben Rosen, so I renamed it Release 1.0, which I thought was a nice name because it's every month it's fresh and new, and you hope it's perfect, but it's not. And my book is kind of it's a totally second product. It's different. The newsletter's for people in the business. The book is for people. It's for citizens. It's not for business people.
Yeah, it says a design for living in the digital age. Now we've seen books from, say, Bill Gates making some kind of future predictions of what's going to happen. Is your book different there?
Yeah, it's not predictions. It's more structural analysis. It's like architecture. What are the issues? What are the conflicts? How should you think about them? But then you need to think for yourself. I mean, what the book ultimately says is here are the problems, here are the issues, but trust your own instincts. You know. And finally, what it really says is go out on the net and be nice, because if the nice people aren't there, then the bad people will take over. But if the good people are on the net making rules for their communities, it's going to be a nice place.
Going back to that beginning, Ben Rosen was the man who, as the story goes, on the back of an envelope, draw up with some people the design of the first compact portable and then invested in it.
No, he didn't actually draw it with them. They drew it first, then they came to Ben, and he funded, this was Ride Canyon, and interestingly, we now have the guy who's probably going to be the next CEO of Compaq, Roel Pieper, speaking at our conference. And the second company Ben did was Lotus, which of course is now part of IBM.
And so you worked with him for a time and then you...
Just a year.
And then you became the voice of the industry, quite an independent voice, because you have never been associated with IGG or one of the big publishing houses, have you?
No, I own it myself, which gives me a lot of freedom, and I can say what I like.
I've seen you from the first insider parties back in Las Vegas 10, 12 years ago, to now you're roaming the world, especially Eastern Europe and other countries, to look more at social impact of technology. Is that a personal thing that you have gone through? From bits and bytes to human?
Oh, you know, everybody grows up. It's I'm actually investing in startup companies. I think people are more interesting when they're not just sitting in one country their whole life.
Do you think there's more opportunity in the East at the moment than in America?
Well, there's more opportunity for me because I know that market better than almost anybody else from outside. And I speak Russian, I like the culture, I have fun there. And in the United States, there are actually too much money, too many deals, not enough good people to run them. Western Europe, things tend to be slower because there's just less entrepreneurial spirit, though it's certainly better in Holland than, say, in France or other countries.
One of the things that makes you famous is your biannual conferences called Forum, and the other one is in the States also called?
Also PC Forum in the US and High-Tech Forum in Europe.
And you have a knack for getting the right people there, not only the right speakers but the right attendees. But speakers, as you said, was Roel Pieper, who is of Dutch origin. He speaks Dutch, but he was the head of what was he before?
Ungerman Bass, then Tandem, and now Compaq, because Compaq first Tandem bought UB, and then Compaq bought Tandem.
Wasn't he with AT&T or something like that?
Oh, yeah, he was with Unix System Labs, and before that, I think with Software AG or one of these. He's been in the...
He wanders around, and now, because Compaq has made a decision to join up with Tandem, Tandem makes big computers that are very reliable, they work all the time, so if you have a really, what they call...
like the sex shops in Holland, they say non-stop on them.
Well, that's a good idea. And now Compaq, who has been growing from small notebooks or laptops to really a major force in the PC industry, the main force in the PC industry. Now these two are teaming up. Does that mean that the PC has become mature, that it has finally pushed out or is pushing out the mainframe and the big computers?
No, quite the opposite. They acquired Tandem because of some of Tandem's understanding of this marketplace, some of its technology. I mean, it's more that they're merging, and PCs need to be, at least server PCs need to be as reliable as mainframes, but with maybe a newer architecture.
Because some people say that the latest thing is net computers, those small units that you connect to the local area network and then to the internet.
So you connect those net computers to something like a Tandem. You really need both architectures.
But that's going back to the old days of terminals, fairly dumb terminals that did the job, connected to the big mainframe.
I think the real net computers are going to be in refrigerators and cars. And anybody who's at a desk is going to want a full PC. But I do think you're going to find lots of other things connected to the net that are, a table. I mean, maybe this table could...
It could adjust to my size or something like that.
Yeah, it could ring a bell if you wanted a coffee or something.
But those are household appliances, just a very ordinary use of the computer.
Yeah, or some machine in a factory that has only one purpose. But the moment you get a real person who's got a life, then you want a full computer. You don't want just this little thin thing.
Now, one of the application areas that normal people would like is voice processing, speech. You have here at your conference Gaston Bastiaans, who is the head of Lernout and Houseby, a Belgian company that's kind of risen very fast in the field of voice recognition. Do you think that will reach the household before the end of the century?
It will reach some households. The technology is getting better and better. Right now it's probably best used in something like medical applications where you have a specific vocabulary. If you call certain telephone companies, you can read your numbers. I mean, you can speak your numbers. It will recognize them. Again, it's a limited vocabulary. For doing plain dictation, they have a system that does it. And I think you're going to see more and more of it.
The application fields that people now see is for lawyers and notary publics and people that process a lot of text in a standard form. But will it reach the household where kids can do their schoolwork with that?
Oh, sure. And it will teach them to speak correctly, which is not a bad idea.
Will it help bridge the gap that we still have between different languages?
Well, Lernout and Houseby is doing something in those areas as well. Again, for contracts, for business, for things that are fairly structured, I think, yes, you can have translation. But I'd never let a machine translate my poetry, for example, or my book.
That has been said for many things. We said never a machine would be able to defeat the world champion in chess, and it's happening. So,
but you see, chess requires intelligence. Poetry requires a soul, and that's really different.
Can I deduct from that you don't believe that a machine can have a soul?
When they do, then they will be not. I mean, there'll be some. Maybe they will, and that will be very exciting. But the ones we have now do not have souls. I mean, I'm perfectly prepared 100 years from now to let a new generation of machines with souls take over. Because if they really have souls, then.
But this debate about is our mind some kind of machine? Is our mind a meat computer that then can be reproduced in silicon or whatever form? It goes for the last 10 years, and there's people who say no, it never will, and other people, notably at MIT, Marvin Minsky says, yeah, it will. Yeah,
I'm open-minded. I mean, as you say, lots of things have changed, but by the time a computer can translate poetry, it's going to be closer to us than to a computer.
That's true. Coming back to your conference, you bring a lot of people here, not only to listen to some of your keynote speakers, but it's basically a mingling place, a marketplace for people with plans,
With
ideas, and people who have money on the other side, maybe.
Well, but you see, I don't like that vision of the market. Here are the people with the money, and here are the people with the plans. The market is trading information too. So what actually happens is somebody from Romania will pick up a good idea from somebody from the Netherlands, or somebody in Sweden will do a deal with somebody in the UK. Or, I mean, it's more than just buyers and sellers. It's competitors. It's seeing what's going on in the market. You can't be a good seller if you don't know what the other sellers are doing. And so what we try to do is create a real community.
You would say that cyberspace would have a role in that by now, and that we would have a cyberspace forum where people would do it, but it seems that we still need to meet.
You still need those pheromones floating around. You need that physical presence of people. And then afterwards you can send them email. But you need to sit over coffee, you need to...
Do you feel that you have to see people regularly, say once a year or whatever, to be able to sustain that email contact?
It depends. I mean, there's some people I haven't seen in a couple of years and I send them email, but if you like them, you'd rather see them more often.
Internet, it's on everyone's agenda. Nations want internet, companies want internet, but I have a feeling that the industry itself is more looking towards intranet and business-to-business application than making it a mass medium. Do you have the same?
Well, every company wants the internet to be their own intranet. Companies do want that, but people don't. I mean, what I like about the internet, it really gives power to individuals, not to mass consumers, but to individuals. And the individuals want the freedom to go anywhere. They don't want to be stuck on one intranet. So you have the same conflict between sort of the big things, whether it's big business, big government, big media, and individuals who want more freedom. And I think you're going to see, not that the individuals will take over, but they'll have their way too.
You travel a lot in Eastern Europe, and what do you see the role of the internet there? Does it help the small people, or does it help the big?
The big people in Eastern Europe mostly don't know about it, so it helps the small people, the new people, the young people, the international-minded people. And for them, it's far more important than in Western Europe. In Western Europe, you have the facts, you're connected anyway. In Eastern Europe, the internet is a miracle, and people can use it.
It's more of a lifeline, because here you could go to the library and find out about all these things, but there
you could call the local computer store or something. And in Eastern Europe, things are much farther apart. So you can get product support, you can talk to other people. It's a much thinner channel to a much longer distance.
In the short term, we have a month ago to Comdex, which is a major focus point in the States. What do you see for the next 3 months?
Well, for starters, I'm not going to Comdex. It's too big, and it's like the Hanover Fair. For the next 3 months, I see actually some very interesting things happening with electronic commerce, especially in Europe. Microsoft has an interesting little experiment they're going to try. A lot of the people at my conference are beginning to develop online commerce applications. I think there's going to be a lot of political discussion about freedom of speech and data protection and so forth in Europe, but I don't think any of that's going to be finished in 3 months.
The main issues like copyrights and so on that seem to get resolved a little bit towards the end of last year didn't get resolved, like who owns databases and what can you do with it. Will that still play a role in where the industry goes, especially now that companies like Microsoft are taking standard internet content and kind of twitching it or tweaking it to be readable in a 40-column format?
I don't think that's going to be resolved that fast either. It's certainly going to be an increasing issue. And you're dealing with, as you say, things like linking, framing. Even if the copy is free, what rights do third parties have to do things with it? And in principle, that should be the decision of the creator. On the other hand, if the creator puts it out on the net, what realistic expectations does he have?
Well, it all depends on money. We've seen that newspapers have put a lot of content on the net over the past few years and never made a lot of money, Wall Street Journal being the exception. What will they do in the coming 6 months with their content? Are they going to...
Well, a lot of them are going to say, gee, this is more expensive than we thought. Some of them are going to be successful selling advertising. Some of them will form joint ventures with other parties. And you're going to see a few more of those being announced over the next few months as well.
In Holland, you see that newspapers are now trying to get to some kind of clipping service where you have to pay for their archive material on a fairly reasonable basis to start with. But they're changing their attitude of giving it away free on CD-ROMs or whatever. You really have to pay, even getting it from the internet. Will that happen worldwide?
I don't think so, because I think there's too much competition. Other people are giving it away for free. Why should the customers pay?
So in small markets where there is a limited number of suppliers of, say, local language news, you might see that they will be able to charge, and in the worldwide situation...
I don't think so. I mean, even in the Netherlands, you're not such a small country. You have more than one or two sources of news.
Yeah, but if you want this specific article of the Volkskrant, which is a little bit left, or the Telegraph, which is a little bit right, and you want to read them...
Yeah, maybe. But it's going to be... the point is not... do you have to pay or not? The point is how much you pay. And you're not going to pay a whole lot.
Now you pay nothing.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. People have said that in the States, after the wave of free internet, or at least unlimited time for $20 a month, there will be a new wave of more stringent use. Will that happen? I
think so, because the current pricing scheme doesn't make sense. Somebody who uses it 5 hours a month pays the same as somebody who uses it 20 a day. Well, it's crazy. And I think you're going to need different kinds of pricing, priority of service pricing, all that.
Will we see pricing per megabyte?
You're going to see pricing per everything. I mean, it's just like some restaurants charge you a prefix for a set meal. Some charge you X amount for anything you can eat. Some charge you separately for the bread. And it's going to be the same with internet providers. In poor countries like Poland, we've seen that there's a trend to charge you by the usage per megabyte. Is that an isolated example, or do you think that that's fairly common, or will be fairly common? There are some, and that creates other problems with spam and with, is it per megabyte sent or megabyte received and so forth. As I said, you're going to see all different kinds of pricing, and eventually it'll work itself out. We have a few years to go to the year 2000. What do you think in the year 2000 will be the major issue in the computer industry? That's an interesting one. I think we will have come to some resolution of the spam problem. Spam being that people can send you unsolicited email a lot. Right. All kinds of garbage. And, live girls make $1 million on the net by sending other people email, that kind of thing. I think it's going to be more like the telephone. How many people have you interviewed about the telephone? Lately, not much. I agree. So you'll be interviewing people about something that's on the net, whatever it might be. But the internet itself won't be interesting as a topic. What will be interesting is business is up or down this year, what companies are doing. Do you expect like the Eastern Europe, Russia, by that time to be on, maybe not totally, but on equal foot as far as business practice goes with the West? Central Europe, absolutely. Russia is going to take a little more time. Well, anyway, we're going to talk to some more people at your conference. Thank you. I hope everything goes well. This was Esther Dyson from Release 2.0, and I'll just hold the book. So it will look different in the Netherlands. Thank you.